Hey guys, this is Alisha Costanzo and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be wrapping up the books from November in my Bookopoly and the Believeathon 3.0. So yes, for Bookopoly I completed most of my roles, I want to say. Remember? Let's look. So I am still in the middle of reading one. I did not read that one. So I'm missing 4 books I didn't read off of my Bookopoly TBR, so I did read 6, or I will have read 6 by the time I'm done. I'm still in the middle of Discount Armageddon. I DNF'd one of them, so I guess I can count that 5. And then I read more extra books too, because I'm insane. Anyways, for Believeathon, I completed Fingers, which was another culture with Amal Unbound. I finished Scream, which was audiobook with Real Artists Don't Starve. I finished The Crown, which was an alternate world, The Coldest Girl in Cold Town. I finished, technically I DNF'd it, but I got The Dagger for Dangerous Setting, A Throne for Sisters. I Will Get the Backpack, Discount Armageddon, which was a new to me author. I finished The Mirror, which was a beautiful cover, and I read Leviathan. I got The Chain, which was a colorful cast, and that was with The Luck of the Devil. I got The Lightning, which was folk tales from Arusha in the end. And I got The Shadow, which was pubbed in 2020 with Midnight Sun. So let's talk about some of these books. I'm going to do it the same way that I did last time, which is give you my one word or my phrase for each book and talk about it a little bit. If you want to know any of my other opinions about the books because you've read them or you're curious, please feel free to leave those questions in the comments below. I will get back to you and let you know my thoughts if those are at all important to you. Let's give my stats in general for the month, which was I read a total of 10 books, almost 11. I'm still working on it. I read, not including my DNF or the current book I'm reading, I read 4,162 pages. For audiobooks, that was 63 hours, 43 minutes, and 50 seconds. I read 3 romance books, 1 thriller, 1 steampunk, which I know is kind of fantasy, but 1 contemporary, 3 fantasy, and 1 nonfiction. I also read 5 adult, 3 YA, and 2 middle grade. I actually finished 2 middle grade. Yes. Okay, so let's talk about my books. The first one was Luck of the Devil by Megan March. And my word for this, or phrase for this, is fight for love. That's because this is the number 2 out of a trilogy. So the first one, they're pretty much fighting constantly with each other. The second one is that proof of, hey, I really do love you. And then the last one is typically something else gets in the way of them have already discovered their love for each other and shit blows up and they end up, stronger than ever. That's pretty much her trilogy arc, which I'm totally a fan of. And that is exactly what happened in this book. Is there was this massive fight for love where he had to step back and go, okay, you be the strong woman you're going to be and I'm going to back you up here for a little while and actually prove to you that I love you. And she was a master at weaving that. And since I'm talking about Luck of the Devil, I also read Heart of the Devil, which is the last one in which crazy shit happened. My word for that is twist. Oh my god. So both of these got 5 stars. I did not see coming what came at the end of it, and then just complete mindfuck of this happened and this happened and this happened and then this completely undid it all. And I'm like, what? I mean, it didn't undo it all, but it undid the reasoning behind what was with the violence and the kidnappings and those types of things. Multiple kidnappings in the series, which I'm totally okay with because different reasons, different outcomes, different characters, all that stuff. But I was totally wrong in my prediction with this trilogy. Absolutely loved the twist in this book. So yay, 5 stars for those first 2 books. Well, I should probably preface in this is that piratey guy, Jericho Forge, there we go. So Jericho and India is again that she's that poker player, and Forge is a multi-billionaire shipping conglomerate dude, and he forced her to marry him in order to help her kidnapped sister in book 1. Book number 3 was Amal Unbound by Aisha Saeed, and this was one of my middle grades. I gave it 4 stars. It was a really quick listen because it was one of my audiobooks about a young girl who made the mistake of wanting some space, going out to the market on her own. She gets hit by a car by the richest dude in the town, the one who pretty much owns everybody. And because she talks back to him and stands up to him in front of everybody, he comes and takes her as a debt. So she must become his servant. I thought there was going to be some like really weird things going on in it, but not really, fortunately. So my word for this is books, because books is Amal's it is her escape for this entire thing. She finds books, she devours them. She's seen as somebody who probably is illiterate, but she's teaching people how to read, and it becomes like the other servants help her, I say steal, but she's really borrowing them. But you know, when she got caught the first time, there was this whole big deal. But books is like a really main element, plot device used throughout the story that I felt helped connect the character to readers and to the plot, and was it was a nice prop, and I enjoyed it, especially since most of us who read see reading as an escape. So totally made sense. Worked really, really well. Really liked the book. Number 4 is Real Artists Don't Starve by Jeff Goins, and my phrase for this is interesting but the same old. Once I got through a few chapters, I pretty much got the gist of the book and really didn't need to keep listening to it. I got halfway through it before I decided to put it down, but it was like interesting data, and so the concept was really easy to grasp. It was all the data, I guess, that made it interesting, and that's what he kept going on about, how you need to find like an apprenticeship, how you do things for free until you become to the point where you could just demand to be paid. It's a concept that I already understood, because most artists need to get paid, even though most people don't see art as something that you pay a lot for. And I like when he talked about Da Vinci and some of the other artists that he discussed. I found interesting, but it wasn't enough to keep me interested in the long term through the whole book. There wasn't enough variance or added information other than just examples of why you should just ask to be paid. So, okay, I DNF'd it, so I didn't really rate it. I didn't really put it on my Goodreads or any of that stuff, but I did listen to half of it, so wanted to give you my opinion. Alright, my next book number 5, is Drunk Music by Michael Connelly, and this is the 5th book in the Bosch series. Love Bosch. And my word for this is showdown. There were so many showdowns in this. Oh my gosh. Because it ended up being police against police in several instances. Oh, and then there's like mob control and Hollywood control and money laundering and undercover cops and like all of these layers of things that led to this ultimate showdown in which people were just died. The bad guys were dead. And I know that's kind of a spoiler, but I love it when that shit happens. There's also a really nice twist at the end that I'm not going to give away, because I think that's one of the more interesting aspects of it that's not shown in the TV show. So, and it was very different from the TV show version of this. So they did do this plot line in one of the episodes, or multiple episodes. I think it was just one of the episodes, and I loved that showdown. I like violence in my books, if that's not obvious, and I really liked that one. Yay Bosch. And getting the bad guys. Okay, the next book I read, book number 6, is Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. So many people have been talking about this. I gave Drunk Music, by the way, a 5. I usually do. I gave Midnight Sun a 4. And my word for this is Persephone. And my husband heard me complain about this a few times, but there were so many references to Persephone that... Let me give some background story. So you all know Midnight Sun is the Edwards version of Twilight. I have studied and written scholarly articles and read other people and presented about Twilight and the universe. And as an author, not really seeing what I write into my book sometimes. Like, I've had people read and go, oh, did you notice this theme in your story? I'm like, that was completely unintentional, but I could totally see it in retrospect. And I can also see why I might have written it, because that's what like literary analysis is supposed to do. Is supposed to not only understand the intentions of the author, but also to see how cultural influence and personal influence creeps its way into a story unintentionally. So something that I wrote about with Stephanie Meyer was that because of her Mormon influence, that's where a lot of what the vampires were created out of. And that's because Mormon angels are heart of stone, they sparkle, and they mate for life. And so those things crept in for me, especially in her serving attitude, which I really loved the other perspective of. I loved seeing her as just that caretaker. She's always been the kind of person who worried more about other people than she did about herself. Totally loved how that mismatched with it, because that is a very Mormon type of personality like especially for females. And in any case, I know there's been a lot of speculation about what her inspiration was, especially since she said, you know, God told me to write this book and that type of thing. So all these little things that were put out in the world for it, it feels like now, because it's like, what, almost 10 years later that she published this book, that it was trying to make up for all of the speculation about why she wrote what she wrote and where her inspiration came from. And she says it was from the Persephone myth. I'm okay, like, obviously she would know what she's inspired by, but because it was so heavy-handed in the book, it was kind of like, it seems like she's protesting other people's interpretations of it a little bit too heavy-handedly. I would have liked it if it was like 3 or 4 times it's mentioned in the book, but it is, I complained about it, and then I looked at my husband and I went and she mentioned it again. And then a couple minutes later, she mentioned it again, and it was just too much of that myth. Otherwise, I really enjoyed most of the book. Because I didn't really like the ending of Twilight, or maybe it's because I know like the whole story of it, the ending of this book was just, it was again one of those protesting too much of the same internal struggle without character growth in the last couple of hours of the book. So probably like the last 100 pages interested me the least. I really liked seeing all the other bits though. And James, fuck James. Fuck James big time. Entitled bastard. Anyways, it was a good book. I totally recommend it if you like Twilight. I enjoyed Twilight, even though I tore it apart writing wise. I do understand a lot of the mechanisms that are in it that made it so popular and such a good book for general consumption. I'm gonna stop talking like a hoity-toity professor now and go on to my next book, which was Dirty Girl by Megan March, which I also gave a 5-star. I don't think I've given her anything less than 5 stars so far, or 4.5. But anyways, Dirty Girl is an offshoot of the Dirty Billionaire trilogy that she had, and this is Creighton's little sister. So she is also like a billionaire heiress, a lawyer, and she goes through a bad breakup and puts out a call for a big dick, essentially. And somebody from her past comes back to kind of reclaim his spot next to her. And what did I write for this one? Explosive. The whole freaking thing is explosive. Immediate media explosion, and he's there, and then there's just an explosion of sex, an explosion of emotions and danger, and just all of these things just implode completely. And then at the end, another fucking twist explosion. Like, this was a really fast-paced, sexy-ass book. Totally what I expect out of Megan March, so I really enjoyed that. If you can't tell, I've read 3 of her books this month, so I really like Megan March. And I'm gonna be sad when I get through all of them all. When I get through them all. But at least she's still active as an author, and eventually I will buy all of the books. Right now I'm reading them on the library because I can't afford to buy the books. But as soon as I can afford to buy the books, I will support her and buy the books so she can keep writing books. Okay, I'm getting tangenty. The next one was Leviathan by Scott Westerfeld. This was a young adult steampunk book, and it followed 2 different characters. One who is a young girl whose father was a pilot, brother is a pilot. She wants to be a pilot, so she goes and dresses like a boy to enter the military. She's Scottish. I love her accent. I love some of the words that and whatnot that she uses. And then the other boy, or the boy, is an heir to one of the countries that is currently at war. So his father and mother were killed because of his father's war for peace, and so him and his servants are running, and they're gonna eventually collide, and there's all these like airships and all this other stuff. There's really cool technology and like beasts that were the Zeppelins and those types of things. Is really cool. I liked a lot of that stuff. My word for this one is voice, because the voice of the Scottish character was perfect. The characterization was consistent. There was a few things I really didn't like about it, but I think that's more perspective than it is bad writing. So I can't really knock it too much for that, but my enjoyment of it during certain parts made this more of a 3.5 rather than like a 4, which what I would have given it otherwise if it weren't for this one major part of the plot. That the plot wouldn't have worked without it, but I didn't like it. I just did not like. I don't like it when people say I have authority over you because I say I have authority over you when they don't, and people actually like abiding by that. It bothers me. So yes, but it was still a nice book. I think a lot of people would enjoy it, especially if they like steampunk young adult historical fiction. Yeah. Book number 9 is Arusha and the End of Time by Roshani Chokshi, and I gave this a 4-star. This was another middle grade, and I super enjoyed listening to this book. I liked her writing. Her writing, I knew that the phrase is too young, and I mean this in a positive way because usually middle grade is too young for me, but because the characters kept reminding us that everybody treats us as if we're too young and we're supposed to save the world, that I was like, you're right. I would normally think that. Thank you for addressing that with me. And the interesting voice and the pretty much consistent action of this book really, really worked for me. I want to continue the series. I enjoyed a lot of the twists and turns that it took and learning a lot about the mythology of the Pandavas and Pandavas. I'm so sorry. I don't remember. But I really liked the mythology and all of like the different weird characters and trials they had to go through. I am looking forward to reading the next one. So would totally suggest if you are looking for a middle grade because you're just tipping your toes in it like I am, I would definitely suggest this book. She's pretty awesome. Okay, last book before my storage fills up is The Coldest Girl in Cold Town by Holly Black. Again, a favorite author. I gave this 5 stars, and my word for this is lore. If you didn't know anything about me, I am a fanatic for vampire lore. Love seeing how culture twists it and religion twists it and taking it and twisting it myself, and that is exactly what Holly Black did with vampire lore in these cold towns where all the vampires are kind of stuck in there, and so are the humans get in but nobody can get out because you're infected, and it takes like 88 days for the infection if you've been bitten to wear off. Or you turn into a vampire if you give in and drink blood. It was just super, super cool, and I loved it. And I loved the main characters, and I loved how like a third of the way through the book so many of them were dead. So I'm like, There are a few parts where I'm like, oh, stupid teenager moments, but overall really, really loved the lore in this book. If you like vampire books, definitely check this out. If you're not so much a fan of vampire books, you might actually enjoy this because there's some commentary on our social structure at the moment as well, and the naivety of young people. So yes, Coldest Girl in Cold Town, Holly Black, definitely would recommend it. Of course, one of my favorite authors. So alright, I'm in the middle of Discount Armageddon by Shannon McGuire. I plan to finish reading this hopefully by Monday. I am reading a lot of the quotes out loud to my husband because the style and the voice is really, really interesting. There are some things where I kind of feel like skimming over it, which I probably really shouldn't because this all seems important, but at times I'm just like, this is too much information for right now. Let's get back to the action. And I'm also half read A Throne for Sisters by Morgan Rice. I felt like a lot of it was a bit too easy, a little bit too generic so far. I'm giving up at about 26% right now. I might get back to it, but I'm just not feeling it right now. So I might put that in my DNF jar for next month. And yeah. Okay, I think that's everything. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Let me know what you're reading. Please let me know if you have questions about any of the authors or the books that I read, and I'd be glad to answer some things below and to talk to you about some books. If you have a suggestion, I love book suggestions, so please leave those in the comments too. And my weird ass is good to go now, so thank you. See you later.